Welcome to The Explainer. You know that feeling when you finish an exam and you just know you lost a few crucial marks somewhere? Well, today we're going to crack that code. So we're diving into a GCSE higher tier non-calculator maths paper. But here's the thing, we're not just going to solve the problems. No, we're going to use the official mark scheme to get inside the head of an examiner. We'll show you exactly how to think like they do and grab every single point you can. See, it's not always about just getting the final answer right. It's about proving you get the process. Showing your work, showing your method, that's what's key. And today, we're going to decode exactly what that looks like. All right, so we're going to zoom in on this one multi-part algebra question. With the official mark scheme as our guide, we're going to break it down bit by bit, and you'll see how every single mark is handed out. Let's kick things off with part A. Okay, so part A. The first thing you got to notice here is that it's not about crunching numbers. It's asking you to explain an error. This is a pure test of your logic. Do you really understand the rules? So the question gives you an incorrect attempt to factorize this quadratic. And for just 1 mark, you have to explain why it's wrong. Now pay attention here. It's not about you giving the right answer. It's about you explaining the fundamental rule that got broken. This right here, this is the golden rule for factorizing these kinds of quadratics. It's like a little puzzle, really. You're hunting for 2 numbers, A and B, that do 2 things at once. They have to add up to that middle number, the 5, and they have to multiply to make that last number, the 6. And here is where we get a peek behind the curtain, into the examiner's mind. On the left, you've got the answers that get you the mark, taken straight from the official scheme. Notice how they all explain the rule that was broken? Now look at the right. Those answers just give the correct factorization, and that gets you 0 marks. You have to explain the why. All right, let's move on to part B. Now, this one is a classic. It's a pattern recognition test. The examiner is basically checking to see if you can spot a very specific and very common algebraic shortcut. Okay, here's the expression. Now, I want you to zoom in on one little word here, fully. Whenever you see that word in an exam question, it's like a huge flashing sign. It's a massive hint that this is probably a multi-step problem, and you'll need to do more than one thing to get all the marks. So how do those 2 steps turn into marks? Well, it's simple. You get the first one, that's an M1 or a method mark, just for taking that first correct step. In this case, that means pulling out the common factor of 2. The second mark, an A1 or accuracy mark, is for finishing the job correctly. You get that for spotting the difference of 2 squares pattern and then factorizing it. And boom, there it is, the complete 2-mark answer. Because you showed both steps, you've fully factorized it, just like the question asked. That's a perfect score on this part. Nice one. Okay, on to the final part of question 11. This one brings in a technique that's a little more advanced, but hey, don't worry. Once you see the process, it's actually super clear and logical. So you see 4 terms, and at first glance, yeah, that can look a bit intimidating, right? Especially after the last few questions. But here's the secret. Those 4 terms are the clue. They're basically screaming at you to use a specific strategy, factorizing by grouping them into pairs. Let's check the mark scheme again. You get your first method mark, the M1, just for grouping the terms correctly and factorizing those pairs. And what's really cool here is the flexibility. The scheme shows there are actually 2 different ways you could group them, and either one gets you that M1. The final accuracy mark, the A1, comes from taking that last step and factoring out the common bracket. And just like that, you've got it, the final, fully factorized expression. By following that simple 2-step grouping process, you took something that looked kinda messy and turned it into a neat product of 2 brackets. That's full marks in the bag. So we've just done a deep dive, a complete anatomy of a single exam question. So what's the big takeaway? What are the key lessons here? What's the real strategy for bagging full marks every time? So what's the real secret sauce? It's this. Success isn't just about knowing the math, it's about knowing how you're being marked. When you understand that you get points for your method, for spotting patterns, and for explaining your logic, well, then you can build your answers to hit every single one of those targets and just maximize your score. Look, by taking the time to really get inside the examiner's head by using the mark scheme, you're doing more than just getting better at algebra. You're learning the rules of the game. You're learning how to win at exams.